Greetings, everyone. Happy autumn equinox. Fall officially started on the 23rd of September, 2023. And we're going to dive into a collective energy reading to explore what this overall energy is going to be for the fall season. If you are just coming across my channel, my name is Wadjet, and you can find me on all social media platforms. I'm currently multi-streaming on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. All right, so let's dive in. What to expect. I'm going to share an overall theme. I'm going to pull a card for the overall theme. I'm also going to pull a card for the beginning, the middle, and the end of the fall season. All right, so let's dive right on in. Oh, we got a jumper. We have a jumper. Listen, the shenanigans are already here. They're already happening. We have the Four of Swords. That's for the overall theme, y'all. If you're not familiar, the swords represent the air element, and the swords is about the mind. So when it comes to this overall theme, just look at the card, right? We're doing this together, okay? You don't have to be a tarot reader to see the image and explore kind of what's coming up for you. I want you to pay attention to that. This is about stillness. This is about laying down some damn where. Sometimes you have to press pause so you can clear your mind. Because if you have too many distractions, too many mental distractions, which makes sense, what happens in the fall season? This is where the holidays start kicking in. We get the most distractions during the fall and the winter season. It starts getting colder outside. If you're on the northern hemisphere, it starts getting colder outside, and all these things can start to happen in the mind. So this is the overall theme. Let's break this down and see what cards come up for the beginning of the fall season and how that interacts with the overall theme. Because here's the thing when it comes to the Four of Swords. You need to start to practice focusing on the things that you want to experience. Be mindful of your mental health and your emotional health. Yes, seasonal depression. That is a major thing that comes up in the colder months. So pay attention to that. Family trauma comes up around the holidays. Loneliness, solitude can come up. So these are things to be mindful of when it comes to this overall theme. All right. Now let's go into the beginning part of the fall season. We have the Empress. So with the Empress, look at this card. Let me show y'all over here. Showing y'all over here. This card is about fertility. It's about birth and rebirth. So let's talk about how these two work together. In the beginning stages, the beginning part of autumn, which is what we're in right now, you want, with all of this, with the potential distractions that you need to start to be mindful of, pay attention to how it shows up for you, right? What is it that you want to create? What is it that you want to start to cultivate and bring in during this season? When you start to do that, when you start to think about what you want to cultivate, what's going to happen 6 months down the line in the spring, that's when things are going to fully come into fruition. But you got to start putting in the work now and start honing in and refining those aspects of creation, right? You are the creator. What does that look like for you? And what does it look like when you take a moment to be still? Because the universe is going to sit you down, or you can be the volunteer. Which one is it going to be? Right? Which one is it going to be? So when you bring these two things together, it's about how can you create in stillness? How can you create in solitude? How can you start to realign your focus and your creativity? Honoring that aspect of creation, the feminine aspect of creation. So think about that. Now, let's go into the middle part of autumn. Uh-oh. You know what's interesting? So we have the Lovers card. So as I was prepping for tonight, a love quartz came up, and I actually put that, if you see behind in my my space back here on my bookshelf, in that water is a rose quartz, and something kept saying, get the rose quartz, get the rose quartz. Like there's something that's going to be coming up. And then here we go with the Lovers card. Because you know what? Because what else happens during the fall season? This is when cuffing season is here, baby. Who is trying to get booed up? Who's already booed up? Okay, like that's what's happening. That's what's going on. So, so this might be the time, and that's where this aspect of the overall theme. You might start feeling lonely. You might start wanting to make bad decisions in order to compensate for wanting to be in a relationship, wanting to have a cut buddy, whatever your groove is, right? You want to be mindful of what type of relationships or people are you allowing in, or are you interacting with, or are you settling for just for like a quick fix. Make sure that there is an alignment there, right? So there's nothing wrong with wanting to hook up, whether you want to just hook up, looking for something, a one night stand, a 2-night stand, an orgy, a relationship, whatever you're into, whatever phase you're in, right? But it's about where are you at mentally and emotionally, because that's what's going on with the overall theme of August, of the fall season, of autumn. Don't get caught up just for something, just reacting to something versus like being clear about what it is that you want. Is this person or people, are they in alignment with you? Is there balance there? And this is also about your relationship with yourself, because that's the first part of a relationship. If you can't articulate your feelings and your emotions, if you don't take the time to go within, to sit down somewhere and sort through your own thoughts, you can't come into a relationship with someone else or an interaction with someone else expecting them to do it for you. Do you know who you are? Do you know what you want? Or you're hoping that you're going to figure it out along the way? And then we have these unspoken expectations for someone else. And then that's when the drama starts to happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are we doing? Yes, duality, support, exactly. Like those things are going to be really important. So something to think about going into the middle part of the fall season. So let's pull a card for the ends of the fall season. And something else is coming up right now as I'm shuffling. So some of you might be experiencing a breakup or a separation or a shift in a relationship that you might currently be in. And that ties into what I was already saying when it comes to that clarity of self and what you want and managing expectations within your relationships. And this is not just sexual relationships, any form of intimate relationship. It could be sexual, it could be romantic, but there is a platonic intimacy, just getting to know someone just in a more intimate way, in a personal way, right? So developing that as well, just something to be mindful of. All right, end of fall. End of fall 2023. End of fall 2023. Ooh, what didn't I say? Look. The Empress is about fertility. I said that earlier, right? And what we get at the end. Look at this little baby. Look at that. What did you know? What would you know? Okay. Things will start to come into fruition. Now, I mentioned like maybe 6 months, but what's starting to show up is like, actually, you're going to start seeing something in that third month. Things can start to reveal themselves, right? So the work that you're starting to put in now in the beginning, that stuff is going to actually start to come forward in towards the end of the fall season. So just think about that. So that's happening in winter solstice is happening in December. And that's another area going into winter solstice where people start to fall off. But it's another opportunity. You start to want to jumpstart as well, because if you honor the Gregorian calendar New Year, which is January, it's not the true New Year, but it's the Gregorian calendar New Year, which is January. That's when people want to start making changes and stuff like that. But you can be ahead of the game. You could be ahead of the curve, because honestly, the true New Year is not January 1st. And just think about it. Does it make sense? If you're trying to start something new in the middle of winter, just think about trajectory. If you have a track record of starting something, if you're into the resolutions, you're doing all these things, and then you kind of fall off, it's like, no, you actually need to start the work now. So going into the end of fall, the work that you start putting in the beginning, the work that you start to cultivate through the Empress, which is showing up at the beginning of fall, which is now, this is where you want to be productive. This is where you want to be, where you want to create, and you want to continue to navigate and nurture that. You want to navigate and nurture that. And then things will start to come into fruition a bit. They will start to reveal themselves a bit. And what's coming up is new ideas and some opportunity. Things that you won't, here's the thing. You're not going to, you can have an idea. You can have a thing that you want to do. You're not going to know where to go next, how to navigate that, until you start taking action towards it. You have to nurture the process of that thought, of that emotion, of that idea. So the more you practice nurturing that, right? So that's another aspect of the lovers, right? So we have the aspect of the relationship, but also nurturing. It's kind of this bridge. It's a bridge. And when you nurture the thing, you will start to experience a result from it. Then you can know how to navigate what to do next. But here's the thing. Nurturing the idea, the thought, the feeling, nurturing that process, it can happen on both ends. What we tend to do is we're nurturing our distractions. We're nurturing the things that keep us stuck. We're nurturing the things that keep us in the same place versus stepping back and observing ourselves through stillness. Maybe you need to meditate. Maybe you just need to be in silence. Maybe you need to just not be around certain people anymore. And you start to really think about, just observe your behavior and your response and your reaction to things. What are you nurturing? What are you pouring into? Because that's a relationship too, is it not? Think about that. Through that process, you get to determine what you're going to nurture, what's going to come forward. Because guess what? Y'all know that saying, what's done in the dark will come to the light? That's what's going to be happening. What's done in the dark is going to come to the light. All right. And you get to determine, this is an aspect that you have control over. What you're pouring into, what you're nurturing, what you're cultivating, right? The key word here, the theme here with the Empress is about cultivating creativity, tapping into that, whether it's creating ideas, whether it's through artistic endeavors, whether it's through, I'm hearing speaking. Some of y'all need to be speaking, communication, whatever it is. Fun. Like, what does fun look like for you? Right? Where is joy in your life? You can cultivate those things too. And something's coming up about work, and I want to just share some insight with that. Don't only tie your joy or what you create and what you're cultivating, don't only tie that to your career, your job, what you like, that type of thing. We have a tendency to get caught up with two things, right? If we're not basing our identity on our jobs and our career, then we're basing it on like relationship status. Like, so for anybody that's out there doing that, stop. or family connections, like, stop. Like, that's kind of coming up. Like, it's time to separate those things and explore your identity beyond these titles that that you've carried along the way, that you've picked up along the way. So this is another aspect of where this overall theme, how allowing yourself to yes, detachment, allowing yourself to disconnect from who you think you are and who you've been told you are, to really exploring that in a different way. This is about evolution, evolving on the aspect of the mind. That's the opportunity. Are you going to pour into that? Are you going to nurture that? Because on the flip side, you can stay stuck, distracted, and be in the same place that you were 3 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago. And just think back to, where were you, or what was going on in your life a year ago around this time? Like, what was going on? How have you changed mentally, physically, emotionally? What's your circle of people that you're surrounded by? Like, what has changed for you? You can get to a certain point, but you get to a certain point and then you do the work that needs to happen there so you can continue to evolve. You don't have to stay stuck. That is the opportunity for the fall season. Every season has an opportunity. What do you want to do with it? And yes, some of the things that's kind of coming up is there's going to be aspects of it that you're not going to like, that you're not going to enjoy. So part of the work is you can want something, but you have to realize there's going to be things that you don't enjoy doing in the process of that. And why that is a thing is because you are battling your inner self. You are that part of you that wants to stay the same, the part of you that is familiar with your current routine. That is the part of you that you are having conflict with, and it's only because it's familiar. That's all. You can want something different, but you fall back on what's familiar, even if you know that the familiar thing is not what you want and it's not going to move you towards the thing that you want. Does that make sense? Let me know if that's making sense. Like, that's just like it's easier to continue to do what you're familiar with. It's going to feel challenging, it's going to feel harder, and sometimes it's going to feel that way. But the more that you nurture the thing that you want, even though it's not familiar to you, the more you practice it, the more you pour into the process, which we talked about with this journey. The more you pour into the process, the more you nurture, cultivate, nurture, and then something comes into fruition. The more that starts to happen, the more that you do that, the more that you nurture it, the more that it becomes familiar. And then at some point, that new sense of familiarity, you'll start to navigate to that more. It makes sense. Okay, good. Because it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. So that is the overall. We did the overall theme for those of you just tuning in. This is the overall theme for Swords for the fall season. In the beginning of the fall season, we have the Empress, which is about cultivation. The Lovers is about nurturing. And the Sun is about fruition and revealing what you have been doing or haven't been doing. whatever work you put in or whatever work you don't put in, that's going to come forward in towards the end of the fall season. So let me know what your takeaways were. And just another thing with the Four of Swords, so again, earlier I mentioned the aspect of mental and emotional health, mental and emotional well-being, but also stillness, solitude, quietude. So you don't always have to. A lot of people that I've worked with, they struggle with meditation. And I want to invite you to consider stillness. Consider just removing distractions for a few moments. That could be a practice. How often do you just take a few moments to sit with yourself? This is something you can practice. And I mentioned earlier as well, when it comes to relationships, if you're in a relationship or you're trying to get booed up, trying to have you a cut buddy, whatever it is going on in the middle of the season, like part of it is, do you know what you want? You can practice through solitude, through stillness, through taking a moment to observe your thoughts. Have you ever done that? Because I feel like, we hear the terms meditation, oh, meditate. And yes, it can be a great practice, but what does that mean? How do you do that? And how can you meditate if you don't know how to focus? How can you meditate if you're not even used to being in stillness and just taking a moment to just not have your phone in your hand, not have some sort of like music on, just be in silence for a few moments and observe your thoughts and how you feel, and just check in with yourself. Like, so just something to think about. Hey, what's going on? Arcane Infinity, we gotta touch bases. Thanks for stopping by. I have to put timers on my social media so it's easy to let it drown out the self-reflection. Yeah. And that's what I do. I set timers. So like I set an alarm. I set a bunch of alarms in the morning. Gotta run. Thank you for tuning in. And yeah, whatever you missed, you can catch the replay. Those of you that have to hop off. But I set a bunch of alarms. So depending on what I have going on in the morning or in the day, whatever, like if there's a block of time, if you know you need to start getting ready or start doing a thing by a certain time, set an alarm so where you don't have to think about all the stuff that you have to do next. Like create space for it. And that's a practice as well. So just something to think about. What are you creating space for? A lot of times we invite distractions in, and I'm inviting you to consider stillness. 1 minute, 5 minutes, and just see what comes up. Sit with it. Observe your thoughts. Observe what you feel. Observe those automatic, like just things that all the background noise that's going on. Just observe what's going on all the time in your mind, in your body. Just observe it for a few minutes. That's how you get there. So thank you as well for tuning in, Al's For Real. So I'm multi-streaming on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. It's Wadjet on all those platforms. So if you don't follow me on one platform, feel free to do so. And yeah, I'd be open to a couple of individual readings if anybody is interested. I can probably do 1 or 2 tonight. Do a couple of live readings. And this is how I do this. So if you're interested in receiving a reading, if you want it to be general, just say general. If it's a specific topic or you have a specific question, then you just write the topic or the question. So for example, if you want something that's career, then put career. And so that way I'll know you want something general, but general about career. If it's relationships, you can say relationships. If it's a specific question, then you can post your question in the comments of wherever you're tuning in. And then I will pull some cards. Well, a card, and then if I need to, we'll see what comes up. We will see what comes up. Let's see. Is this a donation-based reading? No. Nope, you can just post it. I just randomly pick. So depending on how many people are on, I'll usually do like 1 from each platform or something like that. But you do not have to donate. That is not necessary. So let me get to shuffling here. Let me shuffle, and then I will go through and pick. All right. I'll go through and pick here. And listen, don't be like, this is not the time to be falling off, all right? You don't want to fall off this season. You don't want to fall off this season. You do not. You did not come this far just to be stuck here. All right. All right, let's see. Let me see. We got a couple for careers. All right. GI. All right. So let's see. I'm pulling from Facebook first. Career, please. I almost wish I were 7 different versions of me. What does Spirit want to do? Okay, well, part of it is when it comes to your career, think about how, like, where do you want, like, there's so many different things you can do, right? You can have a lot of interests and a lot of things that you feel pulled towards doing. One of the words that's coming up, GI, Juliet, is fulfillment. Where do you feel? Oh, you got cut out? Okay. Oh, good. I was just getting started. So let me repeat this, right? So when it comes to your career, you feel like you have 7 different versions of yourself. Where do you feel the most fulfillment? That's just a question I want you to consider, right? Because there's a lot of different things you can do. And here's the thing as well. When it comes to career, there's things that you're naturally skilled at. There's things that you're technically skilled at. And there's things that you're spiritually called to do. They don't always have to coincide with each other. And sometimes in the beginning, they won't. So there might be things that you feel really passionate about or whatever, but it's not necessarily your career path and what's gonna, like, pay the bills and what's gonna kind of keep you financially stable. At least not in the beginning. Really, it's about how can you explore your interests in a sustainable way. It's also about timing. So you can like all the things and have all these different things that you're interested in, but what makes sense when it comes to timing and right now, what are the things that make sense to work on right now? In this season that you're in right now, in this fall season, what does that look like for you? Out of those 7 different versions of yourself, which one feels like you can bring that version of you to the table right now? So that's something to consider. Let's go ahead and pull a card and see what comes up for you. Queen of Wands. So he says, let me see. The most fulfilling is also the most draining and daunting. And so this is when it comes to timing and capacity, right? So it can be very fulfilling. If it's draining, then how this is where the frequency comes in. How often are you doing it? When are you doing it? If it's draining you, then part of it is boundaries. What are your personal boundaries with yourself? That's something that you need to practice. What does that look like for you? And then if it's daunting, why is it daunting? Is it because that whatever that identity, that version of you is, does that mean it's going to change your current identity? Is it going to change something about you? Are people going to judge you for it? Right? Like I mentioned, I share all the time when I kind of came out the tarot closet, right? It's just like, oh my gosh, like people are going to feel some sort of way. People are going to think I'm, a demon and all types of crazy stuff. Or people might think you're crazy because you're changing careers or whatever. And it's just like, what is it that feels, they ain't paying your bills. So don't worry about what other people are saying. What's happening on a soul level? What's happening on a spiritual level? What feels good in your body? The daunting and the draining, you can work with that through timing, boundaries, and capacity. So that helps so much. Okay, I'm glad. All right, but in the Queen of Wands is about the work. It's about doing the work. It's about owning it, owning the work that you're doing, and how this plays a role in the cards that I shared earlier with the overall theme. It's, what are you cultivating? What will it take to make it not draining and not daunting? Is it about doing less of it? Is it about the boundaries around it? Is it about owning it? Like if you kind of just do it, like if you're not fully owning it when you're in it, even if you're only doing it for a limited amount of time throughout the month or whatever the thing is, like you have to own the thing that you're doing, own what is bringing you fulfillment in your life unapologetically. Fuck anybody that has a problem with it. This is not about them. Yeah, I said it. Like when you start to own it, all the other things will start to fall into place. All right. I just did a deep that helps me a bunch. I feel like I have to do it all by myself. And sometimes that's the case. At least sometimes that's part of the process. And when it comes to the overall theme that's been coming up with solitude and stillness, that can be very temporary. That just might be the season that you're in right now. But also you can decide that, like, I don't want to do this by myself. Start to shift your energy in what support looks like for you. But if something feels draining and daunting right now, then start to consider, what will support look like for me? What could that look like for me? What do I want that to look like? Then you will start to attract that. But there are going to be times where you're going to have to do the work on your own. So you can, and it goes back to what I was saying earlier about communication. I'm not sure if you were listening during this time, about nurturing the process. With the Lover's card, it's like communication with yourself. How can you ask for help and ask for support if you don't even know what you need? Part of knowing what you need is you doing the work on your own. Doing that solitary work, so you can clearly articulate what it is that you need. Because the more you can clarify that, the easier it's going to be for you to attract that support that you need. And sometimes the support isn't in the actual tasks. Sometimes it's all of the other stuff. Like maybe it's support in the household, or, support with, something else, other things that actually pull you from staying focused in that work. So that's something to think about as well. Good. You had an aha moment. Because support can look very different at different stages of where you're at in navigating your career. So, but yeah, you got to know what you want first. You got to know what you want and what you need, and create a process as well. So I hope that was helpful for you, G.I. Juliet. Let's move on over to, so that was Facebook. Let's move on over to Instagram. Let me scroll and see. Let me scroll. Let's see. Al's for real on Instagram. All right, money. Are you wanting, I just want to verify, you want a reading about money, Alice, for real? Are you still here? I don't know how long ago you posted that or if you're commenting. Alice, for real, if you're still here, yes, okay. You're still here. Okay, good. So you want a reading about money. Okay. All right. All right. Let's see, Alice, for real. Let's see. Alice, for real. You know, what's interesting, what's coming up is, I don't know how familiar you are with energy centers or like the chakras, but I'm picking up a lot of energy in your solar plexus area. So that's the area that's like right here, like right in like the diaphragm area, in your gut area. That's what's coming up. Also, I'm picking up energy in the throat chakra. So there's an energy center there as well. So what I'm hearing quite clearly is asking for what you want. Are you asking for what you want? And also I'm hearing deserving, this aspect, this feeling of like, do you believe that you deserve it? And to clarify, this does not mean that you lack worthiness or that you're not worthy of receiving. But what it feels like is, do you have clarity on this connection between what you believe you deserve and what's required for you to believe that within yourself? So the money thing is, it's about belief and limiting beliefs. Have you considered where your limiting beliefs are? Because what I'm picking up on is it's picking up in your solar plexus, and that's about like your that's actually about your identity. That is about like owning who you are. So with GI Juliet, who is tuning in on Facebook, for her it's about owning like the career, owning that thing that she's doing, right? The ownership for you, and that was more of a mind thing. For you, it's about ownership of owning who you are, because that plays a role in what you receive and what you believe that what you believe you deserve to receive. And this feels like, some of this feels like some this stems from something like some past life stuff that's kind of coming forward now. Let me pull a card. Let me pull a card and let me know how this is resonating for you. Now, and this also doesn't mean that you are severely lacking, but it's about like bringing in more. It's not about like, oh, just having enough, right? Because sometimes we get stuck in, you just want to have enough to survive, or you just want to have enough to just pay the bills, or or you want to do it big. Like wherever you're at on that spectrum, it's about that relationship when it comes to belief and receivership. That is where there is a bit of a disconnect when it comes to money. So the question is, do you receive money and then you lose it quickly? Or it's like, does the money come in and then it's like, oh, it just seems to just keep running right through your hands? Or you only get money in limited amounts and you feel like it's constantly like, it doesn't seem like it's coming in a larger sum? Is it about working, just the amount of work that you have to do for the money that you get? And that's like, how does the money show up for you right now? Is it about trying to hold on to the money that you have? You're just holding on to it and you feel like you can't there's nothing else that you can do with it, right? Like a fear of letting go of the money. What does that look like for you right now? Where are you at with your relationship with money? What is your going back to the Lover's card, right? What are you nurturing when it comes to what you believe about money? That all plays a role. That all plays a role. Let me shuffle. Let me shuffle. And, you know, another thing, when it comes to ownership, owning who you are and that aspect of belief and receivership, like, you will start to attract what you believe you deserve, not what you are worthy of what you're worthy of, because you're worthy of everything, right? But this is how these things can show up and how it can limit us. Ooh. Okay. Two of Pentacles. Interesting, because Pentacles is earth element. It also, let me take a sip of water. Also was about referring to money. Hey, MC. Hey, Sherry. We have the Two of Pentacles, the Queen of Cups. So it's interesting that these two things are coming up. The Queen of Cups is about water and emotions. That's what the cups represent. Then we have money. But you see, if you look at this card, you have one that's kind of like balancing and trying to navigate two things. And so it's like, that is what the relationship, your relationship with money is about, your relationship with yourself. It's about your relationship with yourself. And how you are showing up and what you believe about yourself and how your emotions play a role in that. When you start to unpack that, your relationship with money and how money shows up for you will evolve. So that was a lot. That was a lot. And let me know what's coming up for you. For those of you tuning in, I am doing a couple of individual readings. So Al's for real, and I'm multi-streaming right now, and I'm picking from the different platforms. Right now, I'm reading for someone that is tuning in on Instagram. So Al's for real. Let me know if you what your takeaway is. If you have any questions or anything you want me to clarify with what I've shared. Wow, that's great. Thank you. I feel blessed. Thanks for the insight. You are welcome. You are welcome. All righty. Let's see. All right, I'm going to do one more. Still have a little bit of time. I'm going to end this at 9 o'clock. It's 8:51 right now, so I have time for one more. Oh, this message is for me too. I'm glad you received some insight. And here's the thing: if you don't get selected for a reading, sometimes the message that you need to receive is you receive it when you hear someone else's reading. So let's see. Let me turn it on Instagram. Health. Okay. Miss M's 32. Let's do health. All right, let's see. What's coming up? That's interesting. Just got a jumper. We got the devil card for you in regards to health. And what's coming up is a lot of energy in the heart space. So part of it is like what it's interesting. It's like what is happening in your heart. You're like it's almost like your heart feels set on one thing, or feels like it's pulling you, might be pulling you towards one way, but then the devil is showing up. And don't get freaked out by the devil card, y'all. Listen, people will see the devil card or the death card and start freaking out. Don't freak out, okay? This is about, this doesn't, what this is representing for you is about like the conflict of like what your heart is guiding you or feeling led to, or what you're feeling pulled to or called to. And then those the material, the material aspects, are like what's happening in like this physical realm that is pulling you in another way, right? So like the temptations that's keeping you from what you feel pulled towards in your heart. And maybe you have not fully clarified that yet, but I definitely feel like there's something that's where the energy is at when it comes to your health. That's where it's stemming from. Like there's a part of you that already knows what you need to do, where you like the direction that you want to take. It's really about following what is your body kind of already guiding you to do, versus what do you feel obligated to do, what do you feel pressured to do, or what do you feel like earlier I talked about, I don't know if you were on here earlier when I was doing the overall theme, and I was talking about nurturing the process, and how it's easy to stay in what we're familiar with, even if we know that's not what we want, but we tend to continue to do it because it's just what's familiar. And we have to practice doing the other thing so that other thing that we want can become familiar as well, right? But that's the practice. So that's the one aspect of health. The other aspect is so when it comes to redefining what health looks like for you, it's time to redefine that for you, not what other people tell you like it should be. Like, no, it's about what you believe. It's about you discovering what you believe, a healthy life, a healthy body, being and feeling healthy. What does that look like for you? And this actually can tie in quite well with what's the card that was pulled for the beginning part of the season, which was the Empress, about cultivating that. So cultivating a new relationship with what health looks like for you. So so part of my background, for those of you that may or may not know, is health and fitness. I'm a personal trainer and health and wellness coach, along with being a mental performance consultant, and on my path to becoming a licensed therapist, right? So with all these things in mind, I see a lot of things in the industry, specifically in the fitness industry, where we it just seems like in the magazines and in the books, and it's like, this is the way it should be. It's like, No, you get to define and cultivate what you want it to look like, what that feels like for you in this season, right? So if that means if and whatever feels good, just start there, because once you nurture that process, it will start to evolve and you will start to find that for yourself. But you don't have to feel pressure in defining it now. It's about exploring it now, exploring what's already there, and then being more conscientious about some of those choices in the more in the moment, because it's more so, I feel like the devil card is more about like those in the moment last minute decisions, feeling pressured or feeling like, oh well, let me just do whatever. It's just like, okay, well, follow your heart, follow your heart, literally. And that's where you will start to trust yourself more, trusting your decisions, because you're aligning your actions with what you already know you truly want to do, but you're choosing not to do. You're choosing the temptations, you're choosing what's easy, you're choosing just what other people are doing or whatever the thing is, right? You're choosing what's already familiar, even though you know that's not in alignment with what you want. And so for example, let's say if you're wanting to exercise more, maybe you hate exercising, but what do you hate about it if you're not doing it? Maybe it's the type of exercise, because you believe right now that all you like that exercise involves lifting weights and you have to be in the gym and you have to have some personal trainer yelling at you, but it doesn't have to be that way. What about just incorporating movement, just being more physically active and starting there, or exploring another form of exercise, right? Like, so do what you have the capacity for as well. Because this is another thing when it comes to health, right? It doesn't have to be a complete 180 overnight thing. It can be if that's what you feel called to do. But what I feel is coming up for you is starting slow, because with making smaller steps, because part of the process is trusting what you already know is true, but it's aligning the trust with the action and listening to your heart more. Like, what's your heart telling you to do? Like, what do you feel? And when you're eating certain things or doing certain things, how does it feel? Does it feel good? Does it feel nourishing for your body? Do you feel tired? Do you feel um, heavy? Do you feel light? So just pay attention to the type of movement that you're incorporating, the different practices, um, movement practices, things that you're consuming. Pay attention to how you feel. So that's another aspect of the heart. And through that, that's going to also give you more, help you trust more, so you can start to make different decisions. And another thing is not about always omitting things completely. Sometimes it's about timing. I feel like that's come up a lot. Like, sometimes what you're doing at a certain time of the day, you might need to do something, like you might need to change the time that you're doing certain things. So sometimes it's about like reorganizing how you're doing things. So if it's with movement, are you trying to force it in the morning, but it actually feels better at night? Then do that. Movement doesn't have to be some arduous task, right? Maybe you just want to stretch, and that's fine too. So just finding ways to explore the time of day that you're doing certain things. Sometimes it's just about health is about just being in your body, connecting with your body through breathing. I feel like you need to breathe more. Expand your heart space through expanding your lungs. That's kind of coming up too. So yeah, let me know how this is resonating for you, and if you have any follow-up with that. And you know what's also interesting is during this time of year in the fall season, you know, and with the holidays and all the holiday parties and the family gatherings and things like that, it's like all this other stuff is coming up. Halloween is going to be coming up, so all the candy and all the treats, you know what I mean? So you get to decide what is nourishing to you, what feels good for you. So just something to keep in mind. And y'all stay tuned. A little tea, y'all. I will be doing a like a more of like a wellness journey thing, kind of a follow along thing. Um, that'll be coming up. I'm not sure if it's going to be later in the fall or in the winter, but it will be. I will be providing and sharing some things that can support you in your wellness journey, because this is the time of year where people start to fall off, and then they come calling me in the summertime like, "Ooh, Joe, I need to get myself together." It's like, no, the work really starts to happen now. So definitely stay tuned for that. And then if you have any questions when it comes to health and wellness stuff in general, I will be having a segment coming up um, later on in this season where I'll be. This is something I used to do a long time ago, but I will be introducing that again to focus on like health and wellness stuff. So something to keep in mind. Yeah, it's really good. Feeling more, following my heart. All of that is good. What do I have the capacity for? Yeah, yeah. This is about you first deciding like, well, what do you want health to feel like? What does like, imagine the healthiest version of yourself. Imagine what you in your optimal health, what that's like for you, not what you see other people doing. For some people, health is like, oh, well, you can be, health is like six pack abs and running a 6 minute mile. And that could be completely different for someone else. Health for someone else is experiencing joy, feeling, just being able to move in a fluid way, um, just move without feeling, not feeling stiff, right? For someone else, health is um, being out in the sun, being out in nature, and just breathing and enjoying everything about life. That is health for some people. And just walking in nature. Like, do you see what I'm saying? So you define it. So that's what's most important. There are definitely ways that you can get there, right? And if you want to look a certain way, feel a certain way, yeah, there's definitely paths to get there. But it starts with you and where you want to start. And then when you get to a certain point, it's like, okay, well, maybe you hit a plateau or you want to incorporate something else. That's when you start bringing in, then you can start to follow a certain protocol or something like that. Breathing more too is something I've been thinking about, definitely. Yeah, and that's a very like we all have to breathe. And you'll be surprised if you start to observe your breathing. You'll be surprised how often you're not breathing during the day, and you're not taking deep cleansing breaths. So just doing that alone can be a very wonderful practice, and one that is in alignment with health. So something to think about. And I'm glad that these messages resonated with you all. It has been a pleasure. I am going to conclude this collective reading, and I hope that you take these insights and you do something with it. Take it, cultivate, nurture, and bring something amazing into this new season. Don't slack, don't fall off. It is time to be focused. It is time to observe yourself and your habits. It is time to observe your behaviors. It is time to nurture and pour into the process that's going to get you to where you truly want to be, and not to where you're staying in the same place. All right? So, love y'all. I will see y'all in the next one. And for those of you, if you don't follow me on Instagram, every day in my stories, I post a daily message. So if you want more tarot and oracle card stuff, you can head over to my Instagram. That is where I'm sharing a daily message of the day with oracle cards. So stay tuned for that. And if you're not on my email list, go to my website or click wherever there's something that has my where you can sign up for my email list. And I will be sharing updates on there as well. But other than that, I will see y'all on the next one. Bye.